with episode 4 of Miscellaneous and Brown. I am your host, Erick Esteban, and first and foremost, I need to apologize for missing last Friday's episode. I like to be consistent with my episodes and upload them weekly. So last week, I missed it only because of the story I'm about to tell you for this episode. And also, I always like to do this in the first couple of episodes of my podcast, is kind of check in with the audience and kind of check in to see how we're going to keep going forward and and check in with the people that we talked to the last 3 episodes, because I really want to look back and kind of talk about them and how cool they are and how much I want to highlight them and why I want to highlight them. Because the point of this podcast, yes, it's a political podcast, and yes, we're going to talk about culture, and yes, we're going to comment on it, and hopefully I'll make you laugh a couple times. But this is more about introducing you to people who are really getting involved in their community and getting involved in a way where it's, in a lot of ways, taking over their lives. Like with Aaron and Be Goodly. Aaron Levinson literally switched up his whole game and went from a corporate $600 million fishing shipping company and turning it into a networking company that connected multi-million-dollar corporations to small non-for-profit organizations, and how they can use and integrate their staffs and integrate their people so that each organization is benefited. It's a pretty great organization. I'm looking forward to working with Aaron again really soon. And then you have Constantine Anthony, who unfortunately didn't win his election, but I can't even imagine. His story was so incredible. He was an actor turned politician, basically because he realized that if Donald Trump could do it, I mean, people forget that Donald Trump bankrupted casinos in the 90s during the internet boom. Let's put that into context. Donald Trump bankrupted casinos in Atlantic City, a traditional haven for gambling on the East Coast. He bankrupted that entire city and a bunch of casinos during the internet boom of the 90s, when everybody had so much cash and was so flush with stock cash that the only job of a casino was to collect money. And that dumbass couldn't even do that. So the idea that Filipinos would vote for someone as foolish as that would bankrupt casinos. I mean, come on. Casino rhymes with Filipino, guys. Let's be honest and real and use logic. No Filipino should be voting for Donald Trump. But I digress. I don't want to mention his name. I've already mentioned his name way too much in the first 3 minutes of my podcast, and that would be the last time I want to mention it, because the final guest was Isabel Jurado, and that, to me, and I shouldn't say final guest, the most recent guest was Isabel Jurado, and she is in first place in her race, and she's going to make it to the runoff in November, and I'm really hoping that Isabel will come back to the podcast and share her continuing story of how to, her seat, on her quest on her seat to get to city council in LA and be the first Filipino American to be elected to Los Angeles City Council, which boggles my mind because, man, part of the reason why we missed last week's episode was because I was on tour. I am a stand-up comedian, and I was on tour in my hometown of Chicago, performing at the Comedyplex in Oak Park, which is literally my hometown. I was born in West Suburban Hospital in Oak Park, Illinois, which is a beautiful multiracial suburb right outside of Chicago. And I lived right on the border in Chicago, but on the border of Oak Park and Chicago. That's where I grew up. And I was born in Oak Park. One of my first jobs was in Oak Park. And now my first headliner weekend was in Oak Park, basically because of one of my first friends in comedy. Thank you to Mars Timms and Chris and Sherman and all the staff at Comedy Plex, because this weekend was so magical. Y'all, I got my picture on the wall. I you grow up as a young kid in Chicago, and I came up at Improv Olympic and Second City, and Del Close was my teacher, and I look at all these black and white photos of all these great, Bill Murray and Chris Farley and everybody, Tim Meadows, all these people that pass through, and you see these people in these black and white photos, and you hope, when you're a kid one day, that maybe you have a possibility of getting on the wall. And I'll tell you, at the end of my headliner weekend, when Sherman put that, shout out to Sherman, tall as hell. He could reach, because, man, he put it up high. He said, it's fitting that you are the highest on the ceiling. Because I'm probably the highest headliner in there, being a cannabis advocate that I am. No, but it was an amazing experience. And I kind of wanted to use this podcast to kind of tell that story, but also to tell the story of how I got to become a headliner in my hometown, and how, one's belief in oneself is almost all you got to rely on. Because, all right, let me start from the beginning. So last year, 4x3 reached out to me, and they said, and it was an Instagram post. It was an Instagram DM, and it was like, Erick, we would really love to shoot your comedy special. Could you be back in Chicago at the end of the month? And this was at the beginning of January, right after New Year's. And they were like, we would love for you if you could get a date on January 29th, because if you can get a date then and a venue, we will shoot and edit and produce your first full-length comedy special. And I was like, at first it was a DM on Instagram, and I thought it was just like one of them, clothing brands that was trying to, one of them spam things. And then I looked into it, and I said, well, give me a real email. So they sent me a real email, and then I sent them a real email, and then, and then they sent me a real contract, and then I sent it to my agent, and I signed it. And then I kind of enlisted all my, shout out to Circa Pintig, celebrating their 33rd year of 33rd anniversary. They were one of my co-producers, and Shy Asian Network, or Chicago Asian Network as it's known, and Laki Siap, the first producer of one of my first stand-up comedy shows in Chicago, and now he helped co-produce my comedy special along with 4x3 and myself and my production company, 1-2 Productions. And then I can't go without mentioning the homie, my best man at my wedding, my best friend, and the best photographer in Chicago. If you need headshots in Chicago, please shout out Masonette Photography. Joelle Masonette took the most incredible photos, captured every moment, and everything that I could ever have dreamed of with that special, Miscellaneous Brown, shot by 4x3 Productions at Lincoln Lodge, sold out crowd, standing ovation. I really couldn't have asked for anything more, other than more views on the internet, because 4x3 posts all their specials on YouTube, and my special is posted on YouTube, and it doesn't really have that many views. It's got, 2,000 people watching your special is 2,000 people watching your special, but in relation and comparison to a lot of the other specials on the same channel, it's relatively small views. But everyone involved with the project was happy with the project, and I feel like this should be a time where I take a time to plug that and go to Miscellaneous Brown, Google Miscellaneous, or don't even Google Miscellaneous Brown. Go to YouTube and type in the words Miscellaneous Brown, and my special will pop right up, and watch that shit, because it is funny as hell. I'm so proud of it. It is one of my crowning achievements as a comedian, as an actor, as a stage performer. I am so proud of it, and I would love it if you are listening to this to please go watch it. And if you watched it, rewatch it and comment and like and do all that stuff that helps the algorithm to make it, to make more people see that. But everybody was happy with it, and you see how adamantly I am to tell you guys to watch it. I really am proud of it. But 4x3 was really proud of it as well. But they also thought that I deserved and thought that I should get some more views. So they said, let's try this again. And on the year anniversary of my special. So filming my special, January 29th, 2024. So beginning of this year, 4x3 again shot me a DM, and they said, so I heard you're filming, or I heard you're headlining at the Comedy Plex in March. And I said, yes, my friend Mars booked me, and I'm going to be trying to fill that place up and, do 2 new hours of comedy. And Chase, shout out to Chase Crawford at 4x3. He says, well, then let's run it back, baby. Let's run it back and let's produce the Phil Am Comedy Jam. So I got to shoot all the comics that were featured. They all got their sets shot, and they're going to get edited, and it's beautiful, at the Comedy Plex. And then I did 45 minutes the first night and 35 minutes the second night, because we had more comics on the second night. So I did close to an hour and 20, an hour and 30 that could probably be edited down to a good solid hour. And again, I was flabbergasted by just the diversity of the audience, the reception of the audience, and I mean, everybody in Oak Park. I knew that going back home was going to be something special, but shout out to Mimi and Erick and Ginger and Abby and I can't even. I'm forgetting names only because there were so many people that came up and bought merch and asked for signatures, and it was just an incredible experience. And I have to say, it's one of those, you'll never forget your first, and I will never forget my first headlining weekend, and it was so special because it was in my hometown. And I really fell back in love with that city, Chicago. Oh my God, you guys. Chicago is my favorite. No matter where I go, no matter where I live, no matter where I travel, I will always want to live in Chicago. If I was saying it on my way to the airport, it was like, man, I wish I could live in both places. Because I love Los Angeles, and I love being here, and I love being able to do what I do. I love growing my own cannabis. I love raising my daughters here in this beautiful sunny weather. I love that my wife can work from home most of the time, and she has a great job that pays her very well, and we can sustain a very good life here. And it's incredible that I can go home. And I think if you've listened to this podcast a couple times, you probably know that I'm turning 50 this year, and it's probably part of the reason why I've started 2 different podcasts. The first podcast I started was the Kanakuya podcast with my co-host Mitch Narito, and this second one was obviously Miscellaneous and Brown, and that one is the extension and the second season, if you will, of my vlog series during the 2020 election. But now it's a podcast, and I really just wanted to share that story of why I missed last week, and also kind of recap all the, guests that we've had, but then kind of share how I got to this point and where we're going from here. So I've just finished shooting my second comedy special, and I'm not going to spoil any of the jokes because I really want you guys to watch it, and I'm really proud of it. But I will share the new title with you of my new special. And it is called Unemployable, which brings me to the subject of this podcast and why I decided to name my podcast Unemployable. Because on this podcast, we talk about politics and culture, and all the comedy and all the jokes that I write are affected by the politics and culture around me. I'm a very political person. I've always been since a kid. I was a political science major in college. But I'm also very, very into pop culture and just wanting to know what everybody's talking about and thinking about and watching and listening to. So I've always been, a rabid fan of pop culture. So I've always wanted to be able to talk about these things. And in this past, headliner weekend, I kind of got to delve into subjects that I'd never gotten to delve into in comedy, and stuff that I'd been maybe afraid of, or stuff that I didn't feel confident enough in. And now that I'm, it was my headliner weekend and I'm shooting my second special, it kind of gave me a little boost of confidence. And so once I started telling those stories, I realized that the special was going to be called Unemployable, because when I look at my life and I look at my job history and I look at my pursuit of this dream that I've had since I was, probably a 8-year-old kid, 9-year-old kid watching Eddie Murphy Delirious on a VHS cassette tape. It's you realize that my focus on this dream has really made it so I quit or alienated or made myself unhireable, or they wouldn't want me to come back after my hiatus, because I was unemployable, because I would leave at the drop of a hat. I'll share one quick story with you guys about how I like one of my very first job offers when I was a young kid in Chicago, and it was at Seattle's Best Coffee, and the interview was at 5:30 p.m. The interview was at 5:30 p.m. And so, I rocked the interview. I'm very charming, as you can tell. You're listening to my podcast right now. No, I got the interview, and I kind of won them over. They're like, cool, you start tomorrow, 5:30. I'm like, great. I figure 5:30 p.m., right? Because he's interviewing me at 5:30 p.m. The next day, my phone's ringing. Ring, ring. 5:15. 5:30. What the a.m. Now, this is in my 20s. I get up very early nowadays, but in my 20s I did not. I was out a lot, and I went out a lot, and I partied a lot, so I didn't get up until very late in the afternoon or early morning unless I had to work. But my phone kept ringing, and so I picked it up, and I was like, who the fuck is this calling me so damn early in the morning? And they're like, Erick, this is Seattle's Best. We thought that you wanted to start this job. And I go, 5:30 a.m.? I thought you meant 5:30 p.m., like the interview time. And he goes, no, this is a coffee place. We're open at 5:30 a.m. And I go, well, fuck that. I quit. And I hung up the phone. That is merely just one of the stories that makes me unemployable. And then that was one of my first jobs, right? Now I'll tell you my most recent job that made it and put my life into perspective. During the strike, I worked at a Beverly Hills condo, which will remain nameless because I don't want to get sued by any of these rich-ass folk there. I'm about to out as crazy people. But I worked at a Beverly Hills condo, and from the staff, my co-workers, down to the tenants, there were maybe 1 or 2 people in that whole place, maybe 3, that were actual normal people that actually cared and empathized with people's situations, because everybody else, including the co-workers, were either out for themselves, oblivious to the situation, or downright kind of just mean. But that's all those people and the shitty situation of that, doorman job, because that's what it was. I was working as an overnight doorman in a Beverly Hills condo. So you're talking about the hardest, shittiest. Nobody. This is the last job that anybody would want job, and it was the only one I could get. And I lasted 4 months, and then I got laid off. And I gotta say, I looked and searched between ZipRecruiter and LinkedIn and pounding the pavement and walking and passing my actual hard copy resume like an old school. Like, I did everything for like 3-4 months to find that shitty ass Beverly Hills condo doorman job. And between the coworkers that I was around, to the people or the environment that I had to, be subject to, I knew at that point that if it took me 6 months to find this shitty ass job, what the hell am I gonna do? Because I am kind of unemployable. And now we fast back to, I did my first professional play in 1997. And I've been doing this for a long time, y'all. And I could go into all the achievements and all the different things that have happened in my acting career. But at the end of the day, when you've been walking down a path for as long as I have, it's kind of, and you turn in 50, it's kind of easier to move forward and step forward and keep going than it is to turn back and try and figure out something else to do. And I know I'm funny. And after Miscellaneous Brown, it gave me that confidence. And you really should. Well, I'm gonna plug it again because I'm about to wrap this up. I know you guys don't want to listen to me ramble for 40 minutes. I'm gonna have guests coming up soon, and I'm gonna have more guests. I have Jessica Coloza, who's also running for California State Assembly, coming, and I have a surprise co-host that's going to be joining me for a few episodes as well, that we just talked about it, and I'm excited for that, but I'm going to leave that as a surprise for now. But I digress. Miscellaneous Brown gave me the confidence to do Miscellaneous and Brown and the Canacuyas and all the other things that I'm doing now, where I'm touring and I'm pursuing stand-up comedy to the fullest. And let's be real, guys. You got to devote everything to this game if you want to succeed at this game. And so I'm really focusing on it. And that's what this podcast is about. A weekly, consistent joke writing session. And it happens to be with me interviewing different people. And sometimes I'm going to bring comedians on here to Miscellaneous and Brown. And sometimes they're going to be politicians, and maybe they'll be businessmen or businesswomen or entrepreneurs or, cannabis cultivators. So many different people that I want to bring here and talk about different issues, different politics, different pop culture issues that, I just want to, hopefully I want to bring a nice vibe with funny stories and a thing that brings people together instead of pulling people apart. That's the goal of this podcast. So if you want to keep going, you want to keep listening, please keep listening. Write us a review on Apple. My name is Erick Esteban, and this has been Miscellaneous and Brown, episode 4, just a check-in episode. And again, stay tuned because we're going to have some great guests coming down the pipeline. And I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to hit you back. And I promise, tour dates or not, whether I'm at home or I am abroad, I will never miss another week on Friday. I will always hit you with an episode, whether it's just a check-in like this, and you know what I'm doing, and you know where we're going, or I'm bringing you a great guest that's going to inspire you to be a better part of your community, to be a bigger part of your community, and maybe, hopefully, get involved. That's what this podcast is about for me. This is me getting involved. So hopefully I'm going to bring you some great guests, and they'll bring you some great knowledge, and we will all be smarter, better, and more educated citizens as we approach this crazy election in November. So, my name is Erick Esteban. This has been Miscellaneous and Brown. Please do subscribe, review, 5-star rating. Please. You don't know how much those reviews and those 5-star ratings, especially on Apple and Spotify, how much those help us get into more ears and in front of more people and it just expands the audience. So please write a review, share this if you like what you're listening to. Share it on your threads, on your Instagram feed, on your Facebook, on whatever social media, and share it on your TikTok until they ban that shit. Do it. Share it everywhere. Miscellaneous and Brown, yo. This is Erick Esteban. I'll be back next Friday. Peace, y'all.
I don't think you want any problems, but you got one. Here we go. You can see the size is colossal. Look at the way she make the thing go. Make it gyrate, make it shake like tectonic plates. That's what you call an earthquake. Ayy, make it gyrate, make it shake like tectonic plates. That's what you call an earthquake. Ayy, it's summertime, starting up a heat wave, and now all weekend, hardly slept in 3 days. Whoever's driving the car's the DJ. When it's Q, you better pump that bass. The dominance is obvious, I guillotine, heads roll everywhere I go, I rep Philippines. Found my way, turn amaze to amazing. Infinite flows discovered in an ancient spaceship. I see things before they happen, visionary. Bury me inside a studio at the cemetery. My modus operandi not monetary. Noah Lazarus, the holy one out the monastery. So let me see your cue, plus the why, that's the crew. I'm a giant, how I grew, still connected to my roots. Rhymes, I kick it like Bruce, got me feeling like Zeus. Standing tall like Manu, to reach this level need a boost. I don't think you want any problems, but you got one. Here we go. You can see the size is colossal. Look at the way she make the thing go. Make it gyrate, make it shake like tectonic plates. That's what you call an earthquake. Ayy, make it gyrate, make it shake like tectonic plates. That's what you call an earthquake. Ayy, smoother than Brazilian wax. I interact my life a cinematic reflection in the mirror max. With the pros, I'm proliferating. She said my syntax sounds so scintillating. Flavormatics on the beat, savory. Being scared, still doing it, that's bravery. Hunger turn us into savages. Ain't nobody give us nothing, had to do it alone, without a loan. Like Norfolk, Queens, Aquafina had the shell toe. Adidas used to hang with the drug dealers. Been doing this since cassette tapes in my Walkman, writing rhymes on the subway. Traditions I carry on, hip-hop scholar, mastered in the street science. Raw diamonds, I refine them with the stars in alignment. Got the youth to the truth, on the tree of knowledge, squeeze forbidden fruit, and made it juice. I don't think you want any problems, but you got one. Here we go. You can see the size is colossal. Look at the way she make the thing go. Make it gyrate, make it shake like tectonic plates. That's what you call an earthquake. Ayy, make it gyrate, make it shake like tectonic plates. That's what you call an earthquake. Ayy, I just wanna dance all night, wanna dance all night, wanna dance all night with you. I just wanna dance all night, wanna dance all night, wanna dance all night with you.